Hi, I'm Damon Frank, and you're listening to the Recovered Life Show. Every week, we bring you a Recovered Life discussion all about how to get unstuck in areas of your sobriety that are keeping you from living your best recovered life. Remember, addiction is a life-threatening condition, and the information in this discussion is provided as a resource only and is not to be used or relied upon for any diagnostic or treatment purposes. This is not a substitute when professional diagnosis or treatment is needed. Now, let's jump into the discussion. Okay, you are in the Unstuck room in Recovered Life Discussions. Every week, like I said, we pick a topic that you might feel stuck in, an area in your life that you might feel stuck in. I'm joined by my co-mod today, Anne. We're going to dive into a topic that a lot of people face. I know I've faced it. Sober, but life not going as planned. That's really the topic for this Recovered Life discussion. Listen, we're so glad that you're here. We're going to invite some people up to participate. This is a Recovered Life discussion. This is on a replay, and we do record it for our podcast. So please note just a couple of ground rules. Just use people's first name. We'd appreciate that. And also be loving and kind to yourself and other people. We'd like to welcome some of the new people that have come into the room. Ron, Joe, and Alice, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to take a minute to follow myself and Ann here on Clubhouse, that will put you up by the followed by speakers area where we invite people to come up and speak. So Ann, diving into this topic, I wanted to do this today because most of the things that I see, being a sober coach, most of the things that I see is people upset that their life is not going as planned. And this is a big topic. This is what most people talk about. It's like, listen, I didn't plan to get into recovery, but now here I am. I wake up, I'm sober, and I have a plan for what I want to do with my life, but things just aren't going like I thought they would go. And have you ever had that experience?
Yes, I have, Damon. Like everybody else, we get excited about things. We have our visions, whether it's about relationships or our finances or just our health, or some of us, we have challenges with spirituality. And we're like, okay, now everybody in a program is talking about how they're doing well here, doing well there. It's just going to happen for me by osmosis. Kind of, sometimes we have that, especially when we're new in a program and we just hear about the miracles. Maybe we may be reading the promises, but you know what? It's my experience with it. It was like we got to manage expectations and do the work that's needed to get what you want. And, I know we're going to talk a lot more about it, but it was just like something as simple as, would you go into a store and say, I'm sober, give me that car? It's like, no, you got to pay for this car. But, what happens because sobriety or whatever addiction we have, it's such a challenge for us, it's such a huge accomplishment that people don't know how big of a deal it is. They don't know what it took, and it's a big deal for us, but they expect us to act like an adult. They expect us to be responsible and reasonable. They expect us to do the work we're supposed to do, and they're not throwing us a parade. So that's like, okay, but you don't know. It's very interesting to watch this happen. It's actually a beautiful thing to watch with the people new in the program. And yeah, I've been there, and I'll hand the mic over to you.
Oh my gosh, Ann, thank you so much for mentioning your experience. Listen, I have been through this so many times. I'm going through this now this week. I posted in the Daily Drink in our Recovered Life Volley group this morning. One of the things was that that I had experienced. I've been doing a little video chronicle over the last couple of days where all of the plans that I had didn't work out, down to, the flat tire and having to go get the car and having couldn't find the tire, right? Like nothing worked out as planned. And I've noticed something in my own recovery here that I wanted to mention, and in other people's recovery. One of the great blessings that I've had is to be able to work with other people in recovery. And most of the people that I work with are people that want to play full out. They don't want to just get sober. Getting sober is not enough. They want to do more with their sobriety, right? So, what happens is we get to this place where we get jammed up and we have this expectation and plan. And I think it's great to have an expectation and plan. I really do. I think not having some sort of plan about how you're going to get to where you want to go in life is a recipe for disaster, right? But the problem is when the plan becomes the higher power, that's when I see things all fall apart. When your plan becomes your higher power, when you're so invested in the plan that you put forth that you really can't get to where you need to go because the plan is so rigid. And this is what happens. You mentioned it, Ann, that we get sober and we have this expectation. Well, okay, now we're sober. Now I'm not going to have problems anymore. Then we realize, hey, I still have problems, right? Because you hear it from other people that you might be in a 12-step room or a therapy group or might have coaching and you're hearing that like, wow, you know what? I've got to deal with all of this stuff sober. Now, here's the thing. I think this breaks down into a couple of camps. I think I always say in Unstuck, one of the biggest things that people struggle with in recovery is the feeling that they're not getting what they want and need when they have no idea what they want and need, but they're unhappy that they're not getting what they don't know that they want. And that is a lot of feeling stuck, right? They have a general idea, but they never had a plan or actions on how they get there, right? Then it breaks down into people that are not getting what they want because they're not taking the right actions, right? So if I say, look, I want to lose 10 pounds, and then I say, well, you know what? I made those enchiladas. I'm going to have another couple of them. That's not going to, those actions aren't going to get me. They don't reflect what I want, right? And then there are people, I think, that have a plan, they do the actions, everything is good. But like me, and I'm just going to say that I suffer from this a lot, is I can't get out of my own way sometimes. So what happens is if there's a modification on the plan, I can't see when God's intervening sometimes and doing for me what I could not do for myself. So I have this feeling of life's not fair. This isn't fair. Why am I not getting what I want? Right. And somebody told me in early recovery, I said this last week, is that I was sitting in a group of people and somebody turned and said, was this newcomer turned and said, wow, you know what? Life's really not fair. And I can't believe how unfair this is for me. And this guy who had a lot of time turned and he said, you should be glad that life's not fair because if life's fair, you'd be in jail, right? And the whole room cleared out. And it was true, right? In that particular instance, it was true. And it kind of rack focused the whole idea of, this idea of fair, not fair, I deserve it, I earned it, I'm sober, I should be able to get it. Why are they not, why are they not responding to me? Why are they not, why don't they take me seriously now? Maybe you've been at a job and you've been the problem person, but now you get sober. You've been sober for 2 to 3 weeks. Well, why haven't I gotten the promotion yet? Right? Like somehow because we're sober, we're owed it. Right? So I find these as common issues when people get stuck, and it's not going as planned. But the big takeaway here, Anne, that I want to talk about today before I pull people up, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is that one of the things about being stuck that I find is it's my perception that I'm stuck. And when things don't go as planned, I start asking different questions. Now that being in recovery for several decades, I ask different questions. When things weren't going well, the question that I would always ask myself is, why me? A version of why me? Why is this happening to me? Why? And then two, what did I do to deserve this? Right? That's it. And that comes in different forms. Like, Well, why is this happening to me? I did everything right, right? Or don't they understand? That's a good one. Like I don't know who the they are, but this magical thing, I'll say, well, don't they understand that I had this plan and I'm working this plan? And if they would only see what I'm doing and come around it, and embrace it, then everything will be okay. And I start to see a trend here that I'll line up people, places, and things that the plan will become my higher power, and the people are all, saints in those higher power, right? It's all or nothing with those people. And here's what happens is I needed to ask different questions. I needed to start to say, what's trying to emerge here? Let me share something with you guys that's happening in my life now. I had a very successful business in an area that as an entrepreneur, I had this business that I had built up, and because of market changes in COVID, that business became very difficult to do, right? And I had to reinvent the way that I did that business. And every day I'd wake up and I'd lose something in that business, right? And so after asking all the questions, why me? What did I do wrong? I did everything right. Really, at the end of the day, what had happened is the market had changed. It was no one's fault necessarily. And even if it was, it wouldn't help me. So I had to ask different questions. The questions that I asked was, what's trying to emerge here? What's trying to emerge here? Now, why I ask that question, and in sober coaching, why I do this with my high performance clients is I ask this question, what's trying to emerge here? Because that's a different answer than what's wrong, why don't they understand? What's trying to emerge here was this is that the market had changed. But with that market changing, there were other opportunities, right? There were other opportunities that I could not see because I was so locked into my plan. I was so locked into my plan, I couldn't see God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Now, flash forward a year, it's been a struggle with this business that I had, and I definitely did not do as well than I had done in previous years. But what came out of that was something way better for me in that space. And what happened is when I was able to turn myself on to the possibility that my plan needed to change a little bit, that something else was emerging, that God had intervened. In my case, I say it's God, a higher power had intervened and was doing for me what I could not do for myself. It was like I'm starving and there is a 3-course meal, 4-course meal sitting there, but I refuse to eat it because I won't turn around because it's not delivered the way that I want it delivered. This is the big lesson that I've learned in recovery is to switch the question. What's trying to emerge here? Is it my plan? Do I need to double down on my plan? And sometimes what's trying to emerge here is I need to take bigger and greater action towards my plan, right? Sometimes I need to double down on the plan and put more action in. I'm not putting enough into it. Other times I'm putting too much in. Where in your life do you feel that you're stuck because your perception that your life is not going as planned? And I'm going to turn it over to you. I'd love to hear an experience that you've had with this. Why invite some people to come up and join us in the discussion?
Wow, you said so much there, Damon, and I agree with all of it wholeheartedly. But one of the things that I was kind of asked to look at early on was like, do you really know what to ask for? Your grandest plans, your ideas, the way of doing things, the way you think people should be behaving, the way you think the world should be according to you, didn't work out very well. So, do you still want to be advising yourself of what things should be? Do you still, do you still want the same things? Uh, do you still want to be your advisor? And actually, the answer was no. I made a mess of my life, and that's how I ended up being where I was. And so that was not a really big stretch for me to say, I really don't know. I need to learn. And I did learn new ways of looking at things. My perspective shifted. And I have to tell you that. I the way I see life and what's happening, there are the successes, the things that we planned and they happened. And I have to say, most of the time, they're better than I envisioned because I'm not holding on so tight. I'm moving along with the plan, but I'm giving enough room for, in my case, I call God, for God to do the work, to do the things that I may not be able to do for myself. So that helps a lot. But then there's the other that I call learning opportunities. These are the failures. These things didn't really go that well. Well, if we just take the example of just coming into the program, well, if I hadn't gone through all that, if I didn't know what it felt like to say, "Oh God, help me, I can't do this anymore. I made a mess of my life. I feel horrible." If I didn't go through that and say, "Okay, I need to change." If I didn't have that experience, I would not have been able to support the hundreds of people that I have supported in a program over the last 32 years. So the gems, I call them the gems, I used to go to Sri Lanka a lot, and they have a lot of gems there. You know what it takes to get a gem out of the ground? Oh my, it's a lot of work. Then it comes out, it doesn't look so good. You have to polish it, you have to figure out what to do with it. A lot of work goes into polishing. But digging out the gems and polishing it. And that's how I see my life. Every time something happens, it's not quite what I expect or what I would want. I can be upset about it, or I can say, all right, here's an opportunity. I'm digging up a gem, and it's going to go in my beautiful vault of my priceless jewels. So they become more valuable because I don't make the same mistakes again, hopefully. Or when I do, it's a little bit different. Maybe it doesn't happen, I don't wait for the pain to go as bad before I change it. And so for me, like I said, it's a shift in perception. Bottom line is this: life is going to happen. We're going to have relationship challenges. We're going to have financial challenges. We're going to have health challenges. All of this is going to happen. Why not us? It's happening to the rest of the world. What makes us so special that nothing bad should be happening to us? So, how do I deal with it? We always hear things aren't happening to you, things are happening for you. Well, it's a perception that we can choose to adopt. And for me, I choose to adopt that. Something is happening for me. Like you said, what's the lesson in here? What's emerging here? What should I be looking at? And I will tell you, being blessed with long-term sobriety and having experience of a lot of things happening in life, both good and bad, whatever that is, but life is happening. I am happier than I ever was just because those incremental shifts in my perception, in my expectations. And a lot of it has to do with my gratitude level, acceptance, and then and then the gratitude level. So, yeah, I'm going to hand the mic back over to you, Damon. And what a great topic you picked. You always pick great topics anyway. So the mic is back over to you, Damon.
Thank you so much, Anne. And I love your perspective on things. You said so many great gems here. And for the people who've just joined us, you're in the Recovered Life Room, Recovered Life Discussions. We talk about getting unstuck in an area of your recovery. And I have to tell you, one of the things that I've learned, Anne, is I like to be totally real here because I think a lot of the times what happens in with people that come up that have time, right, and they share what happens is a lot of times it comes across very Pollyanna. By the grace of God, I was able to do right. But the reality is there's been a lot of struggles. And I think by sharing the struggles and the imperfections, that's what really helps people, right? Being perfect isn't real. There's no such thing as being perfect. And the reality is, if you are perfect, you're boring. You're boring. Sorry, perfect is boring, right? I want to strive for greatness, right? I do. I want to strive for greatness, but not at the expense of me not learning, right? Because I'm here to learn, I'm here to share. Ultimately, at the end of the day, look, if you have recovered from alcoholism, drug addiction, codependency, right? You have probably narrowly escaped death or a really crappy life. So at the very least, we've had an awareness change. At the most, we've had what they would call a spiritual awakening. And one of the things that I got from that is that there was more out there for me, but I had certain lessons that I had to learn. And I want to talk about one that you brought up. One of the things that I have suffered from is black and white thinking. Look, as alcoholics, recovered alcoholics, I think a lot of the times we crave a system, we crave consistency, but at the same time, it bores the crap out of me. I'm just going to be honest. It really starts to bug me. After I feel that I've gotten some sort of mastery out of a process, I want to throw that process away and reinvent the wheel, right? That's me. And I know a lot of alcoholics suffer from that, right? So if you're in recovery, what happens is we just get we crave it, and then we get it, we don't want it anymore, right? We want something new. We want to experience something new. So what I have done is I've replaced these with different questions. I told you my big question is what's trying to emerge here. One of the things when I get jammed up now, when I feel jammed up, and I felt jammed up this morning when I woke up. I had a bunch of stuff to do, and there's this one thing I can't really kind of figure out. It's not going as fast as I want it to. I've had to reinvent the wheel a couple of times. It doesn't seem to be working for me. So I ask this question. I sit down, and I have a formal process that I do this in when I'm really jammed up, but I can do it informally. I ask the question, what do I need to let go of that's no longer working for me? Because one of the things that I realize is that I will hold on. I will be all or nothing. I'm going to throw it all away, or I'm going to keep all of it. It's like an ultimate death match. It doesn't need to be an ultimate death match. I just maybe there's a part of it that's no longer working for me, right? So I ask myself, what do I need to let go of that's no longer working for me? And then I ask myself another question. Sometimes I'll say, how is this not working for me showing up in my life? And then sometimes I'll double down and ask another question and I say, what would my life look like if I was able to let go of this? Now this is big because now this shifts my perspective into all or nothing to this no longer works for me. I'm going to let go of this. I'm going to rebirth myself into a new consciousness, but I don't have to shuffle the people, places, and things in some mad desperation to get what I think that I don't know that I want. If I said that correctly, Ann. So this has been a game changer for me in recovery and through good coaching and also coaching with other people, helping them try to get what they want in their recovery. I've realized it's not an all or nothing game. It's an accumulation of things that work for you, and it's an identification of things that don't work for you and letting go of those things. So I hope that's a little bit of help. And any final thoughts here before I start inviting some people up to the discussion to have? I want to hear their thoughts and your thoughts on sober, but life's not going as planned.
Yeah, Damon, well, again, you said so many great points there. And one of the things that you said, not the previously, when you were in a meeting, the guy said, "Oh, this is not fair. Life is not fair." And the other person turned around and said, "Well, if life was fair, you'd be in jail." That's quite a statement. Now, if we if we look at what we're asking for, is it fair? Our expectations, are they fair if somebody else expected those things, and if you knew about them, what you know about yourself, the amount of effort they put in, the attitude they have, the vision, whatever it is, and how hard they work and how they show up, would you say that they should be rewarded with what they're asking for? When we shift from what I want, what I need, and we say, are you doing, is there even exchange of energy happening here? Are you showing up and contributing to get that thing that you want? Whether, against a relationship, or whether it's work, whatever, our health, oh, I'm sick, it doesn't feel good. Well, how are you taking care of your health? My relationship is not working. Well, are you there showing up and supporting your partner? Are you appreciating them? Are you saying all the things to them you want them to say to you? And when it comes to money, how are you showing up at work? Are you playing full out, or are you just showing up and half the time you're busy texting your friends while you're supposed to be working? Or if it's your own business, are you doing everything you can to take really good care of your clients so they are bringing other people? And most of all, the foundational piece, are you grounded and are you in touch with your higher power? Because that, for me, is the ultimate somebody has my back. Because as amazing as my friends and human beings and my family may be, they're still human beings and they still have their own lives. They're still not going to be able to show up to the fullest extent. Why? Because most of the time I have to figure out what is it that I want. I mean, I have to really sit down because we evolve so quickly. And like you, Damon, I get bored with the same thing. It doesn't mean I don't want to keep doing the same thing, but I always want to grow. I always want to do things differently. Sometimes I can't even keep up with my own growth. They may be incremental, but they're still growing. And it takes me a while to catch up with where I am right now and why I'm feeling uncomfortable, why I need to level up to the next level. But how are people around me supposed to be if I can't even articulate it to myself? That's unreasonable expectations of others. And we all do that. I do that. Well, you know me so well. Why would you not show up? And they have no clue. Maybe they have something else going on in their lives. But we're pretty self-centered, and as we're supposed to be taking care of our needs. It's not anybody else's job to take care of our needs. We're supposed to know what it is and then ask for it or go get it or whatever it is, because each one of us is responsible for our well-being. And so looking at it from that perspective, so what is fair? What is fair? Am I living the life that's fair, that my past performances, sometimes yes, sometimes no, sometimes it's full on grace. I've been gifted so many amazing things, but then again, something that falls short, I'm like, okay, another gift, a learning opportunity. Anyways, that's what I have, and I'm going to turn it back over to you, Damon. And I know we have some fabulous people in the room. Would love to invite you to the stage.
Thank you so much, Anne. Yes. One other thing before I go to Kat here, because I want to hear what she has to say about this topic. So many times I left like not knowing why I did the footwork and it didn't pay off. I can't tell you, I've done the footwork and it has not, I have perceived that it has not paid off. Later to learn it was a crucial part of the puzzle. Let me give you an example of that. I've had to reinvent myself a lot of times in my recovery. And I had a past career where I ended up diving into a particular type of marketing. And I went full into it. I must have spent 6 months to a year because I thought that the industry was going to turn in a certain way. Well, guess what? That didn't pay off for me. Not only did I not make money in that endeavor, I lost money and time. And I looked back saying, God, I was so sure that this was going to work out, right? Also, I've invested in spiritual things that I thought would help me, and they didn't. Now, flash forward, I'm going to tell you, flash forward 20 years on this particular thing. I'm involved in something right now, and that year investment of time that I put in is paying off massive now. If I didn't have what I had invested in, that through my view didn't work out, was a total failure, created no return on investment for me. That was my perspective. If I didn't have that now, I wouldn't be able to win in the situation that I've got going on currently. Now, this is a lack of perspective for me. This is an all or nothing thinking. Well, I lost. It didn't work out. This sucks. I took the wrong turn. Maybe I don't know. Why doesn't it always work out, right? Instead of the thought of like, you know what? These are some valuable skills and lessons that I've learned. I know that God has a plan for me, that I will be able to apply these and I will be able to make back 500, 1,000 fold to the investment that I put in. This is a different way of thinking. And when you think this way, what happens is the universe conspires to give you the opportunity to prove that. Guys, I want to hear what you have to say in the recovered life discussion. Kat, so good to hear from you. So good to see you here. The topic is sober, but life not going as planned. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for the space, David, and thank you so much. And it it's so refreshing to hear, you know, what it's like in, you know, with a little bit of time that I have, and be able to totally relate. Because yeah, I thought that getting sober meant that everything was going to be awesome from here on out. A lot like the second half of my first year, where, things are brighter and everything's more clear because I'm coming out of that fog and that haze. But yeah, I'm coming fresh out of like heartache. And I was told, I was warned, like don't date in your first year. I definitely dated in my first year, and like many of us do. And it was the best relationship I had been in. I didn't have much to compare it to, but it was great. We both had faith and we both had time. It was, a lot of expectations. I became the director. And that's not to say I wasn't working on myself. I joined Al Anon, and I completed my 12 steps in that program. But I think I still had that inkling of hope that, oh, I have the tools of Al Anon. When I first came in there, was to have a successful relationship. And it's just plans and designs, white picket fence, family. That's not to say I can't have those things, but, it just didn't end up working. Our programs looked very different, and there was more to learn. Um, so yeah, what I've done is I've leaned back into my program, started at step one again, and I'm going through the book with a sponsee, and it's like there's so many lines I missed. There's so much meat in that first 164 pages. It's like how dark it is before the dawn. I really want to hope that um, it doesn't always have to be dark before the dawn. And maybe that's still my wishful thinking showing through. Maybe you guys can tell me what that's like, but it's held true that every time I've had some sort of quote unquote spiritual experience, it's because I've gone through something hard. And I can do the exploration in between, and self-knowledge, which I don't think is worthless. I think it's pretty useful, but it's not going to keep me sober. And just going through the book again, with another person and getting back in the middle, and doing the basics, right, that we were taught in the rooms. It's really helping me with my sanity, and bringing back like this pep in my step that I had lost through my codependence. So I really think that, yes, I'm seeing the bigger picture here. I'm seeing the bigger plan. Um, you know, but holding that space of powerlessness and unmanageability constantly throughout my life, I'm understanding how that's difficult. because we get things, right? We get gifts, and yeah. So I guess my question to you guys would be like, is that wishful thinking to stay in a state of powerless and unmanageability constantly?
Okay. Kat, oh my gosh. Well, first, my heart goes out to you with the heartache, and especially in early recovery, we just so much of our dreams as part of, oh, if I meet the right person and all that. And I've experienced the same thing, but what I've learned with relationships is each one comes into my life, and shows me what I really want in that particular relationship is part of what I want in the whole person. So I started looking at each one. This is what I like, and I not so much this aspect of it. And another person would have another, and it was almost like I'm seeing all the things I was being shown, the things that I want in the relationship that I would be happy in. And for me it was uh, there are needs and there are wants. Our needs are few in a relationship to be happy, but if it's missing, we won't be happy. So maybe we have 3 or 4 needs. We can have 1,000 wants, but the wants can be flexible. We can work and together, and but the needs, like somebody being faithful, is a need for me, and with others, it not so much. So knowing what my needs are, that made a huge difference. And I will tell you that then the my late husband, he was a great guy, because I started looking at all the different relationships I didn't have, or the relationships that were not great. But so anyways, I just wanted to share that there is hope. Just focus on what you got, the beauty of what you experience with this one, and it does get better. You choose better. But you talked about, you were asking about darkest before the dawn. Well, my experience with it is that life, it just keeps happening, things happen. However, how I respond to them, I'm getting much better at it. So I don't wait until I'm like, at the pain point of 10 before I do something about it. Now I may be at the pain point of 2 or 3 before I do something about it. Because human beings, I mean, we only have so many emotions. Things are going to make us feel good, they're going to make us feel bad. Situations happen. So it's up to us really how to, what to do, how to manage. And what I found is that, well, early on, I was told you apply these principles in every aspect of your life, and every aspect of your life will get better. They didn't say overnight. They say it will get better, and they have been getting better consistently. Now, there's one other thing that I want to share with you. Like, I have this vision. You know how when toddler first starts walking, the parent is behind them, because I know I used to walk behind my daughter. If she falls, I'm going to catch her. So my arms are open and, kind of ready to catch her and guide her. That's the vision with God behind me. He's like, okay, and here we go. And they're like, oh, so wait, you're off the track. Come on, let's get back on track again. And then, I go, and I was like, oh, there she goes again. I get back over here and let's go. That's kind of my relationship with God, because, I, as much as we think we have to be one with God, we are, but He's given us freedom to do what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and experiencing life, but always there to guide. And for me, knowing that, I feel good about choosing things. I feel good about making mistakes, what I call learning opportunities, because it makes life fun. It doesn't make it boring, because it's just the contrast in our lives is that's where we find the joy is when we're feeling bad. Maybe somebody comes in, a friend comes in to support, and it's like, oh, I feel so loved, whatever it is. Or maybe we show up for ourselves. So Kat, welcome to Sober Life of feeling life at its fullest, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. That's how I see it. And it's all just beautiful. It's a matter of perspective. And it's not Pollyanna, believe me. I'm very, very aware of, all that is happening. I have struggles with different things throughout my life, and things happen every day. So it's just a perspective that I choose. Whether I'm going to feel good or bad about the situation, and that makes all the difference for me. So, David, I'm going to hand the mic over to you.
Thank you so much, Ann. That was great. Kat, would you mind repeating the question again? I just want to make sure that I had it correctly.
I guess it's just like maintaining a thorough first step, right? Like, on the day to day, regardless of the things that you get in your life.
Yeah, and also just trying to manage with powerlessness and unmanageability, like how to do that, right? Like, um, my perspective on that, I have a couple of thoughts on that. One is, I think our perspective on who we are, what we're capable of doing, and what's going on, I have found in recovery is sometimes inadequate. It's not a lot of the times it's not true. And two, it's not accurate a lot of the time. Sometimes it is. Sometimes I'm right on. But I think having people in your life that can see the possibility of you and are not shy about saying the truth, right? In the news right now, um, I was listening to this thing with all these high school shootings and elementary school shootings and all this horrible stuff that's going on. I was just flipping through the news channel and somebody was talking about the shooter and about their experience with this kid and saying that all they saw was all the possibilities that this kid could do in his life. And all this kid saw was horrible stuff, right? And I think that's an exaggeration, obviously, of what's maybe going through us, but it's a good example because so many times we don't see the possibilities that are out there. So for me, I found that I'm very empathic. I don't come across it, but if I'm around people who are the lowest case scenario, the doom and gloomers, everything is always going wrong. It'll take me about a day and I will not start feeling good. I will start feeling poor. I will start I will start thinking strange things, right? It's just not a good, healthy place for me to be. So I have to be very careful to align myself with people. Now, that kind of share that speak on that energetic level, right? For me, I think recovery would be great if it wasn't for unmanageability and powerlessness. Those are two things, Kat, that I can't friggin' stand. I almost have 3 decades of recovery. I am as opposed to the idea of being powerless and unmanageable as I was the first day that I walked in. But I've learned to accept it a lot better. One of the things, along with this topic of life's not going as planned, one of the things that's been a huge breakthrough for me, I learned this about 3 weeks into recovery. I had a guy that I was working with, and it's still in my life. His name's Kevin from San Francisco. Great guy. He and his wife are both in recovery. And I would have a ton of stuff going on in my head, a ton of stuff going on in my life. And he gave me one simple direction when I got confused, which there's a thing called alcoholic confusion. And this is a really real thing. And I know I still suffer from this every once in a while, where there's about 1,000 pounds of pressure going through a little PVC pipe. There's so much coming at me, and I'm feeling so much that I have to really, I can't control it. It's just too much, right? So what I learned from him is he said, if you're in doubt and your life is not in imminent danger at that moment, meaning a pack of wild dogs chasing you down the street, or you're being robbed, or a car speeding towards you, don't do anything. Wait and see what happens. And this, I used it yesterday. I've used it today. I've used it so many times when I'm in this place of undecision and when I feel that things are totally powerless and unmanageable. Because what I found was, and I've learned this through recovered life, why this works for me is also a lot of it I thought were character defects, but they weren't. Some of it are trauma responses. They're feelings that are not relatable. They're not, I feel them, but they're not really have anything to do with what's going on in the present moment. So what I need to do is I need to not take action. Many of the times when I've gotten in trouble in life, when I've backed myself into a corner, when I've made mistakes, big mistakes, is when I have taken massive action because I felt something and I felt like I had to fix it right away. And many times, the act of doing nothing fixed it and it worked itself out. God was able to intervene, life was able to intervene. It wasn't what I thought at that time. That and surrounding myself by people who could talk into my possibilities is a huge game changer. If you're around people that talk to the lowest common denominator, what will happen is you will become the lowest common denominator. So, Kat, I hope that helps a little bit. Any thoughts on this? Totally welcome. If you guys would like to come up to stage and share your experience with any of these topics or anything on your mind, we would love to hear from you.
Well, that go ahead, Damon. I was actually, waiting for
No,
somebody
you
to
go
kind of
ahead.
speak
Go
up.
for it, Ann.
Well, Matter, I was just going to say, look, for everything that I look for, whatever questions I have found that the answer on how to live life on life's terms, if you will, has been in the 12 steps, regardless of what program you're in. The reason for the simplicity of it, I don't know if anybody, if those of you may or may not know, the 12 steps are actually, basically based on the Sermon on the Mount. So it's kind of, this is how you're supposed to live your life, and if it makes a difference to any of you. But the bottom line is this. For me, there hasn't been anything in my life, any situation that one of the steps did not apply. Like Damon was saying, I love that you said sometimes just do nothing. Just sit with it. Your thoughts change. Your situation will change just because your perspective shifted, or somebody else's perspective will shift, or maybe God will come in and do what we could not do for ourselves. Whatever it is, time is always evolving. Things are always shifting. So maybe sometimes just saying, okay, hold tight. Let me take a second look, and without jumping into action unless we're sure it's the right action. Sometimes that's what it is. And so the thing about it is, if you haven't really looked into the steps, why they work, bottom line is this: it's about us admitting that we're powerless over things, and we should have faith and let God intervene for us, put things in his hands and take our own inventory. How am I showing up in this situation? What am I doing? What should I be improving? And actually being honest about it, and talking with somebody else who can maybe give us a different perspective, because a lot of times we're pretty hard on ourselves. A lot of times when we're in that space and we can see all the things we've done wrong, we've said wrong, we're pretty hard on ourselves. So sharing it with somebody who has a different perspective from the outside, like Damon was saying, the unfortunately, some of the people who go off of the deep end, they're just they don't see themselves the way somebody else around them. If they were to talk with somebody, maybe they would have had a shift in mindset. So, and then after that, it's like, okay, these are the things that I don't really like about myself, and I do want to stop doing some of these things, and then continuing to be responsible, continuing to do the right thing by people around us, and continuing to do the right thing for ourselves, taking responsibility, not expecting others to do for us what we're not willing to do for ourselves, but letting God to do for us what we're not willing to do for ourselves sometimes, or we're not able to, right? And it's just all about continuing to grow in who we are, in our essence, in our spirituality, and showing up and helping others, like, what's happening in this room, coming up and sharing about it. Kat, what you just shared, it's helping other people, I'm sure, because we're all in different relationships, whatever it may be. And relationships are an intricate part of our life. So just sharing where we are and what we have makes a huge difference. But bottom line, I just kind of described to you how I, the in a more generic way, how does 12 steps show up in my life. So if you haven't looked at them in a while, or if you haven't had a conversation about it with somebody, you may want to polish it up a little bit, because it's really pretty simple, as to, when something comes up, which one applies and what the perspective should be. It's always one of them always applies, at least for me anyways, and a bunch of other people that I know that has worked for very nicely. So, David, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
Thanks, Ann. I love that you mentioned the 12 steps here. And I'm sure people that are listening to this that are very involved in 12-step programs. And there's a lot of people that listen to the show and listen to this that are not involved in 12 steps at all. They don't want to have anything to do with it. Me personally, look, I don't want to be as much of a 12-step fanboy as I am, but, it definitely changed my life. But for me, I needed other things as well, right? One of the things that about 12 steps that is amazing is that it does have this process of living. It has what I call a spiritual technology. So many people are hung up on the people of 12 step and not in the actual spiritual technology. And when this was designed, the year it was designed, and how it's been used, and it's very effective. And I love the spiritual technology of 12 steps because it takes you through a process to get to what I call neutrality, which is being able to just sit with yourself and be okay and not be drunk. And that's what it was designed for, and it worked well. Now, there are other things out there too that I needed. I needed more than that, right? I needed more than that. I needed to go a little deeper on things. One of the things that I see with 12 step, though, is people do get stuck. They get stuck in not being able to take action around them. I believe that, the 12 step program is meant to be worked not necessarily in the rooms, it's meant to be worked in your life. And so many people just get stuck, what I call church basement thinking. They just get stuck and they really can't take an action, and they only can take actions in the room. But when they get out of the room, they're unable to really make any impact in their life or other people's lives, right? And this happens. And we would be kidding ourselves to say that we haven't seen that. The question is, for us, is how do we get unstuck when things don't go as planned? And I want to give a couple takeaways that I've definitely learned from today. If your life isn't going as planned, one, you might just need to get out of your own way. That's been my biggest thing. We heard Kat come up and share, and I hear people come up and say, "Oh man, I can't, I was so lucky this guy hired me, and I did this and that," and they talk so poorly about themselves and they're in their way so much. I say, well, why wouldn't they hire you? You're great. You're a good worker. You do great things, right? Why wouldn't you have somebody who would want to date you or go out with you or whatever? You're amazing, right? People can't tend to get out of their own way. And I can't get out of my own way, right? I know this because I suffer my own self-inflicted wounds. If I'm unable to get out of my own way, I can't let my life, no matter what I do, I can't really get anywhere. The second thing that I think was really good about this room that really highlighted to me is that, I really, to take action, you have to start taking actions. And I think the other thing that comes with actions is you need to know what actions you need to let go of, right? asking the question, does this work for me? Does this work for others? Do I really need this? Can I let go of this? I think has been such a huge thing in my life, because what it allows me to be able to do is to be able to let go of the things that no longer work for me so I can grab other things that are coming into my life and experience them. If I'm so held tight with this is the way it's got to be, I am going to miss most of the miracles that start to appear. And any final thoughts about getting unstuck if life is not going as planned?
You know, I don't think I have much to add here because we covered so much of it, so many aspects, Damon. And no, I don't think I have much to add. Basically, it's just let go, and show up. Oh, one thing that just popped up actually. Kat, you were saying that about the spiritual experiences, like early on the I had my spiritual experiences. The transformation would happen under extreme pressure, to really be forced to let go. But over the years, I have to say, I choose my spiritual experiences by going on retreats, by learning how to, this is, if those of you in a program, let's say 11 step, it's, really advancing our spirituality, if you will, so I can choose to have advanced spiritual experiences, and so it's your choice. You can wait, and they call it perturbation. Basically, perturbation is under extreme pressure something transforms. It's the process of the charcoal turning into a diamond. Well, once it's gone through that extreme pressure and turned into a diamond, it's never going to be a charcoal again, right? And that's what happens with us. And for me, I control my transformation by actually going on retreats and totally immersing myself in a particular what topic or whatever it may be. And so that's something to consider. It's either you let it happen to you or you choose your spiritual experiences. But again, for me it happens through retreats when I'm totally immersed on a particular experience that I want to have. So that's a hopefully that helped. That's all I have there, Damon. All yours.
Love it. And what this reminded me of is somebody told me that if you don't have problems, you're probably playing too small, right? And that's it. Like if you don't have challenges in your life, you might be playing too small, right? Like everybody has challenges. I think a good way to look at it is what kind of challenges do you have? How are you able to weather them? And how do you feel when you're weathering them, right? That's really what this is about. So many people they come into recovery and they want success. They want all the things that they think that they want, right? And then when the problems start and when challenges start, there's a lot of people that get very upset about that. But I think those challenges tell you sometimes that you're on the right path. So it's really about getting unstuck is really, what we've learned here every week is really about shifting your perspective into a place that you're going to be able to receive answers, right? And be able to receive healing. Guys, I'd like to invite everybody. We've switched the community to Volley. And I got to tell you, Ann, I've had more fun on Volley. I'm on it immediately. In the morning, I do a thing called the Daily Drink, a little passage we put out. So many people that are in the audience here have joined me on Volley. It's really a new way to be able to communicate. We've shifted the Recovered Life community over there because it's really been great to be able to interact with people. As much as I love the old system, it was a little too static, right? A little too static, but this is I'm calling it Recovery 3.0 here. So join us on Volley. You can reach that group by just clicking the link above or going to recoveredlife.us. You can join for free, get on, start having a conversation. And listen, if you don't want to post video or audio or text volleys, you can just listen to the discussions that are going on. Both Christina Dennis and I are there. Also, I would like to offer, I do every week, I give away one recovery session with me. Actually, I'm working with people on a coaching capacity, which I call high performance recovery coaching, for a week for free. And you can get that by going to info.recoveredlife.us.
Keep the conversation going. Join Recovered Life, a community of like-minded people who are looking to live their best recovered lives. Membership is free, and you can apply at recoveredlife.us.